Hey everyone, it's your girl Amanda Schaefer here, and I am so excited to tell you what I'll be doing for today's video. This is my first time doing something like this for a YouTube video. I'm going to be reading a story that I wrote on Wattpad, and it's called How I Became a Fan of the Swan Princess. I am so excited to read it to you. Those of you who read it on Wattpad, I hope you enjoyed it. But this time, I'm going to be reading it out loud for all to hear. A lot of you are wondering how I became a fan of this franchise, and you're about to find out as I read through. Here we go. Chapter 1, Animated Heroes. The year was 2008, and I was on a website called Animated Heroes, which has profiles on every male character in animated movies, whether they're Disney or not. When you click on a character, you'll see what film they're from, and they'll give you information about the character, what they did on their adventures, and what happened to them. Sometimes you'll see song lyrics from their movies. Of course, their names are above the pictures. Underneath are pictures from the films involving the character, including the people they fall in love with or are friends with. On the very bottom of their page, you'll see quotes from the characters, which is always fun to read. All the heroes are sorted from A to Z. As I looked through the Ds, one character caught my eye, and that one was Derek. I clicked on his picture, and that's when I saw he's a prince. So I read a bit about Derek and saw he was from a film called The Swan Princess, and that hinted the story was loosely based on Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. I've always loved the story of Swan Lake, considering I've watched a Barbie version of it many times, and it's always been one of my favorite films of hers. After I looked at Derek's pictures, I suddenly became interested to watch the Swan Princess film itself. I don't know if the Animated Heroes website is still out there, but I do know it was an old one. Just reminding you right now. Chapter 2, Animated Heroines. Just like the Animated Heroes website, there's another site very similar to it called Animated Heroines. This time, you'll be seeing profiles from all the female characters from animated films, be it Disney or not. Unlike the Animated Heroes site, however, you don't see the characters' names on their profiles, but rather adjectives describing them and such. But you can see their names if you hover the mouse on their profiles, and when you click on them. Although the character names aren't on their profile pictures, they're still sorted from A to Z. One of the profiles had the word sweet, and when I hovered over it with the mouse, that's when I saw the name Odette pop up, which suddenly implies she is also from the Swan Princess. I clicked on Odette's profile, looked at her pictures, and instantly thought she looked like an amazing character. Of course, Derek was in a few pics, and why wouldn't he be? After all, they're from the same movie. Sometimes when you're on the Animated Heroes site, they'll actually have the profile of the heroine that's from the very same movie as the hero. Chapter 3, Watching the Film. Although I liked looking at Prince Derek and Princess Odette's profiles over and over, I knew there was one step to actually liking the Swan Princess, and that's watching the movie. YouTube had the film broken up in separate parts, so I watched it from there. Once I reached part 7, I had to find somewhere else to watch the next few parts, because they weren't on YouTube. I don't remember what site it was, but I do know it had the remaining scenes I still needed to see. The minute it ended, I felt like I was on cloud 9 because the premise was so beautiful, and I especially loved the songs. Those of you who have seen The Swan Princess, do you have a favorite song from that film? Let me know in the comments. Even if you haven't seen it, you should tell me which song you liked. Anyway. Well, you don't necessarily have to, but you know, I'm curious about certain things. Alright, back to business. Chapter 4. Christmas Gift. Months after watching the film, I decided I wanted to own a DVD. It was near Christmas, so I added it to my list, in hopes that I would get it. When Christmas finally came, and when my brother and I went to open our gifts, I found that one of my presents was DVD-shaped. I picked up the gift and began tearing up the wrapping paper. The first thing I saw was a tan castle, which was on the back. Part of me wasn't sure about the film I was gonna see unwrapped, but I kept going anyway. Once all the wrapping paper was off, that's when I saw it. The very first present of Christmas 2008 I've gotten was none other than a DVD of The Swan Princess. Even though I already knew what to expect during the film's runtime, I was so excited I decided to watch it again after unwrapping the rest of my gifts. I tell ya, I became attached to it from the instant I watched it, but there's still more to the story. So, here we go. Chapter 5. Far Longer Than Forever. The Swan Princess had such beautiful songs, but there's one in particular that always gets me singing along. And that song happens to be Far Longer Than Forever, the third song that played in the film. During this long-distance ballad, Derek and Odette expressed their love for each other from afar. The two have been separated for a year, due to Odette being under a spell, which turns her into a swan by day and human by night. No matter how many times I hear this song, I always have the urge to sing it, because it's my all-time favorite song in the film. And they say it's actually the film's signature tune, because you'll hear it a lot throughout the franchise. Even instrumentally. And a couple of films actually did have an end-credit version. If you ever want to give them a listen, they're out there on YouTube. Including the film version. Sorry, I'm just counting how many chapters I'm up to, because sometimes I'll lose track of count. Alright. Chapter 6. More movies? About a year after becoming a Swan Princess fan, I was searching stuff about it on YouTube, only to find clips from a few other films called The Swan Princess, The Secret of the Castle, and The Swan Princess, Mystery of the Enchanted Treasure. When I looked into those two films a little more, that's when I realized they were sequels to the first movie. Secret of the Castle being the second installment, and Mystery of the Enchanted Treasure being the third. Both movies were on YouTube, but were broken up into 8 separate parts. I watched both films on separate days and thought they were very well done. After all, Derek and Odette's journey didn't end with their wedding. There had to be more to their story somewhere down the line. Just like the first film, the 2 sequels were released in the 1990s. The first in 1994, the second in 1997, and the third in 1998. I know a couple of Disney films that came out those years as well. The Lion King, which came out in 1994, Hercules, which came out in 1997, and Mulan, which came out in 1998. I know a bunch of other films came out that same year, or those same years, I should say, but we'd be here all day if I named them all. Alright, back to the story. Chapter 7. New additions to my collection. For a little while, I only owned the first Swan Princess movie on DVD, but wanted the 2 sequels as well. At the time, I had to have parent supervision to make an online purchase, so I asked my dad if he could order them, which he did. The 3rd film arrived first, but I didn't mind. But when the 2nd film finally came, my dad had packages of 4 other movies on DVD that arrived at the same time. Though I was happy to see what the other films were, I was grateful to have all 3 Swan Princess films added to my collection. But little did I know, they weren't going to be the only films any longer. And if you're wondering what other films I got in the mail that very same day, I got Toy Story, Toy Story 2, Mary Poppins, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. All of which we had on VHS for a while, but when we got the DVDs, we didn't need the tapes anymore. After all, they don't make a lot of VHSs nowadays anyway. Chapter 8. The franchise continues. In CGI. Now we come to the year 2012. I was looking at Swan Princess pictures and came across something interesting. The picture showed Odette and her 3 animal friends, John Bob the Frog, Speed the Turtle, and Puffin the Bird, standing next to a Christmas tree. In front of the tree was the title, The Swan Princess Christmas. I first thought it wasn't real, but when I went on YouTube and typed it in, I suddenly realized it was. The trailer was up, so I decided to give it a watch. One little thing I noticed was the characters and scenery looked a little different. When I first saw them, they were in hand-drawn animation. But in the trailer, everyone and everything looked computer-generated. Part of me was excited to see that they were continuing the franchise, but the other part questioned why it was in a different animation. Luckily, I remembered that it's the animation style movie makers are using nowadays, so I wasn't hesitant entirely. Although I still thought it was kinda cool when they made a Christmas special for the next chapter of the series. Christmas specials are always the best, don't you think? Chapter 9. Getting the Christmas Film. The Swan Princess Christmas was released on November 6, 2012 as a straight-to-DVD movie. I may not have gotten it as a Christmas present the next month, but I still wanted to add it to my collection. My dad ordered the film, but on the day it arrived, there was a huge party going on in my house. I came home from school to see numerous people everywhere, and it turned out my dad threw a Philadelphia Phillies themed party. Once I started unpacking my stuff, I was told there was a package on my bed. I walked up to my room and unwrapped the package, till right before my very eyes, I took out a DVD of the Swan Princess Christmas. Although I wanted to watch the film, all the chatter from the party guests carried throughout the house, so I decided to wait until the weekend. Saturday came, and I sat down in the living room to watch the film. The storyline was sweet, but what really got me was that the filmmakers had a villain from one of the previous movies come back to life for revenge on Derek. Ooh! I may have noticed it in the trailer, but the idea still had me on the edge of my seat. Overall, it was a beautiful film. And for those of you who are wondering which villain they brought back, it was Rothbart from the first film. And he did a lot more worse things than what he did when he turned Odette into a swan. Okay, Chapter 10. More and more sequels. Derek and Odette's adventures didn't end after that eventful Christmas, with lots more films coming out as the years passed. While I was at school playing on one of the iPads, I saw a picture of the prince and princess hugging a little girl, which had me curious about what film it came from. I typed the film in, then saw the words "A Royal Family Tale," which made me realize it was gonna be the 5th film. Of course, watching the trailer was a must in order to get into a film, so that's when I found the one for The Swan Princess: A Royal Family Tale. This film came out in 2014 and was also a straight-to-DVD sequel. But the thrill still didn't stop, with more and more sequels coming out. The other films in the franchise consisted of the following and were released straight to DVD, while 2 were released digitally, but had limited edition DVDs. The Swan Princess: Princess Tomorrow, Pirate Today, which came out in 2016. The Swan Princess: Royally Undercover, which came out in 2017. The Swan Princess: A Royal Mystery, which came out in 2018. The Swan Princess: Kingdom of Music, which came out in 2019. And The Swan Princess: A Royal Wedding, which came out in 2020. After the 10th film came out, that was it for a while. And also, the 9th and 10th installments are actually 2 parts, like a 2-part adventure. The Swan Princess: Kingdom of Music actually said "to be continued" at the end of the film, which hinted there was going to be more to that. And The Swan Princess: A Royal Wedding was a continuation of that one. I still thought it was cool how they did that. Anyway. Chapter 11. 2-part finale. 3 years after the release of The Swan Princess: A Royal Wedding, I got the biggest surprise of my life. It was the beginning of May last year, and I opened up the Facebook app, only to notice something very exciting. The Swan Princess Facebook page shared a link for a trailer of the 11th film in the franchise, The Swan Princess: A Fairy Tale is Born. My insides went crazy, and I immediately opened up the link to watch the trailer for myself. Derek and Odette were about to be crowned as king and queen, but before all that, we see how Derek's mother, Uberta, first became queen and what challenges she had to face. That being said, the first half of the movie was going to be a prequel, while the second half goes back to the present for after the events of the previous film, A Royal Wedding. It was also mentioned that this film was the first part of the series' conclusion. The film came out on May 23rd, and we were all on the edges of our seats when it ended on an emotional cliffhanger. I was a weepy mess as the credits rolled, and felt my breath trembling every time I inhaled because of it. Despite that, I still enjoyed the story and was so proud of Derek and Odette as they became king and queen, causing my love for this franchise to grow even stronger. Luckily, we didn't have to wait long. Long to wait, as it says, but you know what I mean. Same idea. As I saw on the Swan Princess YouTube channel on its monthly videos, the Schomburg Daily. The 12th and final installment, which was titled The Swan Princess: Far Longer Than Forever, was announced in August, causing my excitement to overflow a lot more. I waited and waited for the trailer, but I couldn't find it on YouTube as I tried typing it in for many days. When I started to lose my patience, they announced a date for the trailer to show. It was to come out in early September, and once I heard that, I stopped getting impatient. Patience is a virtue, and that means it's good to stay calm while you're waiting. After I watched the trailer, I was super excited to see what Derek and Odette's final adventure would bring, but I knew what they'd be doing at least. This wonderful and touching conclusion started streaming on September 19th, and DVDs became available on November 7th. I pre-ordered a copy of a DVD of the final film at the end of September, and it was delivered on November 13th, almost a week after it came out. There were so many scenes that got my heart pumping, and some of them had me crying tears of joy and pain mixed. Once the film ended, I still had tears in my eyes, but they were the happy kind, knowing that this franchise got the happy ending it deserves. Although some people are still asking questions about some of the other characters. I kinda did too, but I'm still happy with the way it ended. Chapter 12. Strongest of All. This magical franchise may be over now, but after completing my DVD collection and getting more Swan Princess merch as more films were released, my love for the series is officially the strongest of all. I've been a fan of the Swan Princess since I was 11 years old, and I'm still proud to have it in my life to this day. Even though Derek and Odette's adventures have come to an end, that won't stop me from rewatching these films over and over again. What would I be doing if I never discovered the Swan Princess in the first place? One thing's for sure, I wouldn't be writing this story today. Better yet, I wouldn't be telling this story today either. The end. I had a ball writing this story. And I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I did reading and writing it. Is there a chapter in this story that you liked or thought was the most interesting? Comment down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be back before you know it. Toodaloo!